Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host, and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up, because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania Magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. You ever meet somebody who's so deep into the VW world that it's almost like they speak a different language? That's Harley Sitner. He's not just wrenching on old vans. He's built an entire ecosystem around them. His shop, Peace Vans, has become a go-to spot for anybody who loves these rolling pieces of history. But here's where it gets interesting. Harley isn't just about the nostalgia. No, he's pushing things forward. He's actually working on an app that could completely change how VW owners maintain, track, or even connect their buses and vans. Think about that, guys. These things were built decades before smartphones, and now he's the one bringing them into the digital age. How stinking cool is that? So today we're going to get into all of it. The passion, the problem solving, the road trips, and of course, the inevitable breakdowns that come along with owning one of these timeless pieces of history. Let's get into it. Harley Sitner, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been so much fun to learn about your podcast and your passion.
Oh, thank you, man.
We spent a minute or two off air before this, and just awesome to connect with someone as excited as I am about this.
Thank you so much, man. I got goosebumps from that. I appreciate that so much. I feel that. Appreciate that. All right, before we jump into some questions, I know this is going to be a killer interview. I do have a couple of shout outs to mention. First shout out I want to give is my buddy Caleb Mayfield. Now, Caleb is the one that actually told me about you and gave me your name. So I got to credit him to getting connected with you. So I appreciate that, Caleb. Shout out to my sponsor, Volksmania Magazine, the flyest VW magazine on the face of the planet. This is an international production. It's a very quality. The pictures, the stories, everything is awesome. You guys need to subscribe. U.S. subscribers use DubLife 10. That's DUBLIFE, the number 10 or 10 at checkout. You get 10% off your first issue. Also, shout out to Salty Dub. Born by the beach, built for the road, Salty Dub events and VW swag, www.saltydub.com. Last shout out, and it's back to my man, is to Dino Styles, Dino's Garage in DC Metro. Just want to thank you for your support, my brother. Give you a shout out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dino's Garage, DC Metro. If you need a VW mechanic in that area, he is your guy. All right, Mr. Harley. Welcome back to you, man. It's all about you now.
Awesome. Thank you.
So what was your first VW?
So, that's an interesting story. I actually lusted over VWs. I mean, I like to think about my first exposure to VWs was really, it was 1988, I would say. So pretty late in the game. But, seeing my first Dead shows, I was in college, Hamilton, Ohio, some Midwest shows, Ann Arbor, Madison, which was up Alpine Valley, all this stuff. And so, I kind of got exposed to, like seeing people serving veggie burritos in cold Sierra Nevadas and, in the parking lot, and we're like, oh my God, these are like rolling homes. These are little camp mobiles. And, and I always wanted one. In the early 90s, when I purchased my first vehicle for myself, it was actually a Jeep, and something always felt off about it. I took it down the Baja Peninsula and was traveling in it, but I'd see everyone in their VWs, and I was like, that's actually what I want. And, just put it off until finally my daughter was born in 2010. And I, just was like, I need to finally, start living life like in the moment, and finally pulled the trigger. So, it's kind of ironic that my history with VW, despite this being so enmeshed in the world, really only goes back, 15, 18 years or so. And that was my 1991 Volkswagen Vanagon. And, so I purchased that in 2010. It broke down the very first time I drove it. And then
I got a lot of these stories.
More of the stories will unfold, I'm sure, over the next hour.
What's the backstory on Peace piece vans.
Yeah, so
Obviously had a
basically
huge impact on the VW community. But
yeah, so what happened was, like I said, I bought my first VW camper van, and, it broke down, and I really struggled to find anyone qualified to work on it, and this was, like, the vans were starting to become popular again, around, like, '08, '09, 2010, and I stumbled upon a little shop called Peace Vans that was in the Seattle downtown sort of, urban corridor, and, they were, like, they were terrible, to be honest. It was a terrible experience. They didn't really fix anything. The van broke down like a few blocks away from the shop.
us,
I kept going back, but really sweet people, and like really like kind and so basically what happened was the owner, it was just three people and it was losing money and the owner was going to close up shop and I was like, don't do that. I actually at that point had transitioned out of corporate life. I actually have a long previous career, like working at places like Microsoft and big consulting firms and
wow,
startups. And
man, that's
I
very
often joke that I'm the most overeducated person in the industry. Um, and so, yeah, so I went home and I told my wife, "Hey, that little shop that I've been using, Peace Fans, they're closing and, I think I wanna take it over, like, keep it, alive," and I was willing to spend a lot of money on my van, and I kinda learned at that point, if you really wanna keep your VW running, you kinda need a close personal relationship with a mechanic, or
Yep,
you need to be able to, like, wrench on it yourself, which was not me.
that's right.
So I was like, "Wow, I'll have my own personal mechanic," paid for. So, yeah, so I went through a small little negotiation and basically just took over the shop. It was 3 people losing money and, kind of that was 13 years ago, and I've since, shed all my other business interests and doubled down and doubled down and doubled down again, so that's 2 to the 3rd, so probably another one, so 2 to the 4th, into Peace Fans, and it's, we're up to about 30 people, a bunch of different lines of businesses.
Yeah, just in
Y
case you wanna see their staff, they're behind me back there.
Yep, recognized leader in the space, and it's been an amazing journey. I like to tell the story, that I came home that day and told my wife, "Hey, I think I'm gonna take over this VW shop," and she's like, "That's a fucking crazy idea. Like, what are you doing?" And that's kind of my indication that I was onto something, something fun.
Hey, man, that's good. You saw the triumph in the potential tragedy,
Yep.
for what was being said. That's actually a leadership skill. So
Mhm.
pretty cool, man. Pretty cool to see that. So running this shop now 13 years, you specialize in, well, a lot of things I saw on the website, but obviously one of them for this podcast and the purposes of is VW vans. Over the years, what's the craziest or biggest or, just one of the restorations that has stuck out to you?
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, on the air-cooled side, actually just yesterday, I just met the woman. We restored a 1977, Westphalia for a customer, and it actually turned out it was the only in 13 years, this is the only project we ever did where the customer didn't see it through to the end. Yeah, just kinda gave up. And, it's taking a while and his life changed. And so we finished it and it sat around the shop for about a year or two because I loved it. It was a beautiful restoration. And, I literally put one post on Instagram. I was like, "Hey, I think we're going to sell this bus." And some woman like texted me and was like, "I want that." And, that was a couple months ago and she just picked up yesterday. So that was an amazing project. I mean, uh,
77, you said it was?
yeah, 77.
Yeah,
We
that
did
stuck
this.
out to me because that's the year I was born. So
Oh,
that
wow, okay, yeah, we did a 71 high top bus, that was really fun, working on the high top conversion. Right now, we're actually doing a full restoration on a Carmen Ghia, which we don't work on a lot of non-camp mobiles, but it's a really interesting customer, and maybe it's, heretical to the audience, but the customer wants to convert it to electric as well.
Oh,
So
sweet, dude. I
so
mean, hey,
we're rolling it in one big project for him, and he's kind of a I can't really say who he is, but he's a well-known entity, with the local music scene here.
very
Mm.
cool.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a really fun project,
Yeah, sounds like it.
and,
What
like,
year is the Gia? Just so I can visualize
I
the
think it's
dash.
a 71. I'd have
Okay.
to double check, yeah, pretty sweet. So
Yeah.
and then, like other restorations, really, like, the big part of our business is water-cooled Vanagons, the '80s era Vanagons, and so we've definitely done some projects that hit almost 6 figures on those, full body and paint restoration, and
Very cool.
some of those projects really stand out, rust buckets, where we are literally, like, cutting out metal and, buying donor vehicles and cutting metal from those, and
Wow.
those are always big projects. Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of those. What else? We got a thing in the shop right now we're doing some work on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything cool to it or
No, just a standard kinda like resto project.
yeah, got you.
Might convert it to electric.
Oh, another one.
We're investing pretty heavily in EV conversions that we can talk about later.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of like some of the, like, higher profile projects that come to mind. Oh, 71 Doka double cab. That one comes that's local, so we see that quite a bit. We restored that, and that was a really fun project as well too.
How's the scene out there? The Seattle scene, is it different out
It's
there
solid,
than
yeah,
other parts of the country, or is it
it's pretty solid. I don't think it's not like Southern California, but it's not that far off. There's a lot of people still into the camper scene is very, very, like, ubiquitous up here. A lot of people still camping a lot and being outdoors in their V-dubs.
yeah.
But yeah, you see, there's quite a rich culture. It's really nice.
Yeah, that is. That's awesome. I think in Florida where I'm at, Central Florida, might as well be South Florida, I feel like, but it's too hot multiple months
Yeah.
throughout the year, here. Too humid and yeah, man, too much.
Yep.
But it's cool to see, it's still super popular here, but a lot of like beach theme
Yep.
vehicles,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know.
Yeah, here you still got it's a lot of the campers, I mean, a lot of the campers ended up on the West Coast, it's kinda like almost a downhill slide from the East Coast to the West Coast. Maybe that's what happened. But yeah, it seems like most campers end up on the West Coast eventually and just live out their lives here.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful area and weather. I've been all over that area.
Mhm.
Back in a previous life, I opened up health club facilities,
Oh, wow.
and we were partnered up with an Anytime Fitness location out there. So it was like Ording, Buckley, DuPont, Yelm,
Oh, yeah.
all those areas that kind of harbor, yeah, Seattle area. But it was beautiful. We were out there in July, and it's windows open and just
Yeah, nowhere
absolutely
better.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Peace Vans, obviously, you guys, are a very popular shop, but I want to hear your take on what makes you guys stand out from the rest of the VW shops that aren't just out there but are everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly it comes down to, like, our management. Like, this is a bit, I don't wrench. So while I'm an owner and I'm passionate but I am a manager and I manage the business and I hire the best people and coach them and mentor them and retain them. So I am not out there like micromanaging the team. And I bring to the shop and all of our businesses a very high degree of professional management. So while there's a certain charm to going into your like 40-year-old VW shop and the owner is out there wrenching and your receipt is all dirty with grease and there's something about coming into a shop where you're writing a really big check and having like a high degree of confidence that like we're going to honor the schedule. Everything's going to be done perfectly. You're going to get calls every week on your project. We have an open door policy. You can just sense that the team is like really, really happy to be here. And that kind of flows through to the work that you see coming out of the shop. So I think, and I've seen this, just being a manager versus a mechanic, it elevates the experience of the shop. People are welcome back in the shop and welcome to see what we're doing and, talk to the dirty, everyone who's dirty back there if they want, like that's awesome. But I think, just our ability to meet our deadlines to, really be great stewards of your money. A lot of our customers spending a lot of money And I always joke, we're not taking your money and paying last month's taxes. We're a very well-run organization.
Yeah. That's a selling
And that,
feature.
yeah, it is.
It's a trust builder
And
instantly.
yeah, and I empower my front office team. They're not scrambling around. They have plenty of time to answer the phone,
Sure.
respond to emails, talk to people that just, and we have an open door policy. Like, people come in all the time. Where you can see behind the photo you got there, right behind the shop, is the light rail station that comes from the airport. And there's a big van in the back on like a container, and people stop, they see the vans, and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that place?" And they get out and they come back and visit. And so, just that accessibility and transparency, I think you don't see in a lot of repair shops, let
Yeah.
alone like highly specialized shops.
I picked up on something else too. I picked up on the accountability side of running a business. A lot of the hippie theme, misses that
Mhm.
era, that business culture, that hey, we're gonna stick to these deadlines come hell or high water. So
Yeah.
I noticed that. And then here's what else I wanted to say to that. What you see a lot of times in leadership is that people actually operate better under guidance and instruction. They crave it. They want it. So when you're a great leader and you're giving guidance and you open door policy and all these things that you mentioned, dude, it's a win-win. You probably have a fantastic culture, and that's probably why they're all there and still there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like, I really, really try to let, everyone on the team do their best work, whatever that is.
yeah, right butt in the right seat. That's
Yeah, and then
ah,
have them be unencumbered with things they don't like to do, and so really just make sure people are thrilled.
operating in their strengths. That's
Yeah,
just
and
again,
I
that's
tell my
brilliant.
team, I tell my front office team, I'm like, "You deal with the crazy people, I'll deal with the psychos." So, like, I've got their backs, like, anything ever is going south or something really weird is happening, like, I've got your backs, like, I will take care of this, like, you don't get paid enough to, like, deal with true, like, like, sideways situations, which are few and far between, and usually they have nothing to do with our work or even, like,
Right.
customers. There's, like, someone coming in off the street and being, like, all weird and stuff, so, yeah.
Still, man, another strength, another leadership strength that, you don't pass that stuff down. The general don't send soldiers into battle that he wouldn't go battle himself. So that's it's
Yeah.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and so I think, like, parallel to that, you asked what makes us special. It's also the quality of work and the attention to detail.
Okay.
I mean, I don't, we don't, like, our mechanics aren't flat rate, so they're not trying to make time, or, they're all very well paid with great healthcare plans and PTO policies, and it
Oh
really
yeah.
allows them to do their absolute best work. They want to take an extra 3 hours and make, like, that thing look beautiful on a 50-hour project. I'm like, yeah, like, go, like, get that perfectly in place, cut the zip ties, paint the thing, like, like, wash the part that we didn't even replace, like, go the extra mile. Like, I will never ding you for that. And that shows up. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, I was just visiting a sister shop in the Bay Area last week, actually. And, they were like, one of their mechanics came out, heard I was there, and was like, "Oh my God, I just worked on one of the vans you restored last week. And, like, the work was impeccable." And I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of what we want to hear. We want anyone to open any engine bay and be like, oh my, that must be Peace Fans. That is, like, clearly, like, a Peace Fans project."
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. So speaking of projects, I did notice on the website the I guess the push towards the new ID Buzz.
yeah.
So first, I just want to ask the short answer. What do you think of the new ID Buzz? Like or
I
don't
I
like?
mean, I love it, I
Okay.
mean, I also, like, obviously, we've made a big bet on it. I couldn't possibly say I don't like it because we're multiple figures into investment and have a really great relationship with VW of America, and,
Oh,
they wanna
good,
see us be
man.
successful. But with that said, I mean, it's there's no other vehicle on the road right now that makes people smile like that. Like, literally, it is I have a picture where I parked. It's a big Tesla facility down the street from us, and I parked a green ID Buzz next to a Cybertruck, and I did a little, like, this or that, and, Anything probably got 100,000 views, and, like, it was just like it's the anti-Cybertruck, and it's just the anti, like, just all cars look alike these days, and, love or hate the ID. Buzz, but it stands out, and, like, kids love it, that's my proxy, like, the kids come up to it, like, at the car shows, which has been one of the only places to see them lately. I mean, kids hug them. Just it's friendly, it's approachable, it's
That's
cute, it's fun, and then on, like, driving, it's a great if you like EVs, it's a great driving experience. I mean, it handles really great, it's fast. Yeah, obviously, as an EV, it's basically silent. So, I mean, is it the first car I would choose to drive? Probably not, but it's an amazing evolution of a platform. So, yeah, and we've been waiting for a modern VW camper for 25, 30 years. So,
right.
we decided to pretty
We
much
got it.
go all in on it.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about it. So, but it's there's no question it's not for everyone, and they're not building a lot of them either. So it's a very niche car right now.
I like them
Yeah.
personally. Yeah, I like them. I love them. I love the technology and what you said. I love that my 5-year-old, when he sees one, he feels like he's
Yeah.
gotta go touch it, and
Right. It's
I'm like,
kind of
"Hey, hold
crazy.
on, that's someone's car, don't do that."
Yeah, there's nothing else out there's literally, like, I mean, there's nothing else out there that generates like, people pull up alongside me on the highway and honk their horn and wave at me, and that's like, I don't know, that I
Think they're
tend
onto
to
something.
I tend to over-index on things that make other people happy, and the ID. Buzz is, like, squarely in that category, so it gets bonus points from me.
So when you're not working on vans, I know you travel a lot, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I try to travel a lot, yeah.
do you do this by road?
Yeah, I try to take a lot of road trips,
Do you have
Yeah, and that's
a road trip van that you take?
yeah, I like to travel in my 1991 van again. That's the original vehicle, it's the one I have
Okay.
the most memories in. I feel really comfortable and happy in it. It's just, it's my happy place, and I was lucky enough to just last week, I just had a week, I we have a small set of VWs that live in Baja, Mexico, that we rent, and
I saw that on your website.
yeah, and I send my van down there for the winter so I can go visit it and have it down there. And my partner down there drove it up to San Diego for me. And so I flew down to San Diego last week and drove up the coast, and it was just so much fun to be back in my van after like a 4 or 5 month hiatus.
I bet.
Yeah, and I had a really good time just reconnecting with, just the road and, rolling down the windows and the music loud and getting away from the office as much as I love my job and my team and, as much as I love my kid, getting away from her for a week. So yeah.
So let's talk about this app.
Mhm.
I'm interested. So
Sure.
you're working on an app for VW owners. I learned a little bit about it, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, so a couple things about it. So, we do own an app, and it's actually built for everyone. We're gonna build out some features exclusively for VW owners on it.
Okay.
But it's called Seeker, Sekr. And it's really used for finding campsite. That's its off-grid campsites. That's its primary use case. Like,
Okay.
I'm on boondock, I don't wanna be in a big RV park, I'm sick of this state or national park campgrounds, and it's got an interactive map where users can rate sites, they can plot locations, you can make those private so only your friends can see them. And we're gonna build in some features so you can connect with other people on the road. So I have a VW camper van, you have a VW camper van, we're within like 30 miles of each other. Maybe we can message and meet up. Uh,
Ooh, cool.
yeah, a lot of permission-based stuff has to be set right and safety
Sure.
and all that. But we know how to do all that stuff here. I have a background in that. So yeah, we're really excited about it. There'll also be, forums for getting help. We'll have a dedicated VW forum for all VW owners. Obviously there's other resources for that kind of stuff, but really there's nowhere that knits together the camping, the events, the resources, and then the social nature. Like,
Okay.
oh, I want to find. So right now it's focused on camping. And, I think as it gets a little more momentum, we will open it up to other VW owners for their vehicles too.
When
Um,
when do you think that this app's gonna be available? When's it gonna drop?
so the current version is available right now on both app stores, Google Play and the Apple App Store, Seeker, SEKR.
Okay.
You can download that. You can sort of use a free version of it and find campsites and,
Okay, so it's
explore
already there.
around. Yeah, there's a set of features that you have to pay for, but, I think it's now 1.99 a month, $1.99 a month, so pretty affordable. But it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, and we're just experimenting with and following what the users use and innovating features based on that. So,
I'm gonna check it out. Cool, man.
yeah, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So running the company 13 years, what's one of the biggest business lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh god. Depends on which axis you wanna think about, from a like, if I put on my CFO hat, like, cash is king, and I don't know if any of your listeners are small business owners or like, the P&L is interesting, the balance sheet is interesting, but man, like, cash is king, like, manage the cash flow. Like, I had a mentor, much larger business than mine. I remember one time talking to him, he's like, "Yeah, I only look at cash in the bank." Like, if I have a lot of cash in the bank, we're doing great. If we're not doing a lot of cash in the bank, I start doing other things. And, there's kind of like a small business, like, you can lose sight of cash flow, and all of a sudden, you're like, things are going great, and then you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute," So, I think, though, if I put on, like, my overall, like, CEO hat, it's really about, like, one of the mantras I give my team, I try to teach my team is, focus on the relationship and not the transaction. So, in any given transaction, like, I don't honestly, like, I don't care. Like, if I have to refund that or discount that or, you know, m give a bunch of money back, I wanna preserve the relationship. And, over time, like, if we do that right, we'll be profitable. So, like, how do you get out of the weeds on, like, "Oh god," and empower the team to do that, to make those decisions. So, and that's kind of similarly, like, really, just empowering my team. I'm really proud of my team and the longevity, and when people leave, it's sad and it's always, difficult because I empower them to do their best work and trust them and, let them make mistakes and I don't ride their case when they make a mistake. I'm just like, well, what could we have done differently here?
Yeah, it just sounds like just a lot maybe your previous life, even in corporate, when you mentioned that you were in there, I think it shaped, the outcome for now. It allowed you to be this fantastic leader that, people probably seek to look out and to go work for.
Yeah, I think they would reflect back the same thing for the most part. I mean, there's definitely like, sure, every once in a while I get someone you just don't click with, or
Well, I mean, that's life, but
life. Yeah.
again, when you're a good leader, you look into, "Okay, why don't we click and what can I work
Yeah.
on in myself?"
Yeah.
I've
And I've
taught a
learned
lot
a
of
lot about
contractors.
myself. Yep.
I've mentioned to a lot of contractors in the past, I work with contractors a lot. I'm a sales trainer outside of this podcast, and I tell them all the time, if you lose somebody or if somebody leaves, it's your fault, not theirs.
Yep.
So, what could you have done differently or better? So, yeah, man, I completely respect that.
I'm really
Anybody listen.
proud of the fact that I can leave the business. Like, I can walk
Oh,
away
dude.
for a week, 2 weeks,
Yeah,
3 weeks even. I could even probably leave for a month, and, like, these guys would be fine. They all would thrive, and
look great.
they know how. I always tell them, just like, think about what I would do and just go, like, go do it with your own flavor. So,
That's so great. You literally get out of your own way by getting out of their way.
yeah, totally. Yep.
And then you can leave, which
Yeah,
is,
then I can leave. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people, business owners, small or large, can't say that. They have to be the ones in control in their business. They can't kind of let the reins go. So respect,
Yeah,
man.
it's
I'm
it's been
glad.
a really hard lesson for me to learn. I have this another sort of mantra around, like, this doesn't really apply in, like, safety situations like wrenching or tying knots, but, like, there really is no perfect way. Like, there really is no, like, so people get so attached to their way of doing things. And, like, sure, if you're torquing something down to a spec, it has to be to that spec.
Right.
But 90% of the stuff is like, you want to do it that way if you're really passionate about it. Like, I don't care, I'm more like outcome focused
Yeah,
and
does it get done? Check.
yeah, does it get done really well? And are you stoked about how it got done? Not really about the how. It's really the what and the why are really more important questions.
There's probably some folks that are gonna listen to this that, might be wanting to start their own company, their own restoration business, or even something similar. What would be advice that you have for somebody that's listening to this that becomes inspired to do this on their own?
Yeah, I actually was on a recent podcast a couple months ago for a podcast. I think it's called Acquiring Minds. It's about buying and selling businesses. And it's I think it's like a 2 hour deep dive into like my experience here.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, it's super interesting. But I would, it's a couple things it's like owning your own business is like super, super stressful at times. Like, not everyone is wired to do it. Like, you have to both be simultaneously like the most optimistic person in the world and the most pessimistic person in the world in the same moment. You have to be like, oh my God, I'm so pessimistic. I got to see all the risks and manage those and control those. And so optimistic that I'm going to ignore all those risks and we're just going to go for it. And it's quite hard to do that at the same time. So and you also I think owning your own business, if you get to a certain scale, you have to you have to like enjoy people. Because at some point you're gonna add a team and we've already talked about this a few minutes ago, but like a happy team is the, most critical thing you have, your most important asset. So you have to, be able to lead and provide joy and health for your team, and that can be hard for some people. They just aren't able to do that.
Right. I love the comment that you have to like people. In one of my sales classes, I teach, and you've heard this before, people usually buy from people they like and
Yeah.
trust. But
Mhm.
but I say this all the time, people buy more from people who like them.
Yeah.
You gotta
100%.
like your customers, man. You
Yep.
can't be that type of, back office type,
Mhm.
hide from the public type people anymore. That's not really yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and we are so lucky, like, it is so easy to love our customers.
Yeah,
I mean,
super
it's
cool.
so yeah, that podcast I was referring to, like, it's a lot of, like most of the guests are, like, they own, like, HVAC businesses or IT businesses, and I talk a lot about hugging my customers. That is a core part of our value system here. Like, obviously with consent, but, we hug a lot of our customers, and that's like I mean, that's a core value of us. Like, if you're
I
willing to
saw
be
that.
with
Where did I
them.
see that? I'd rather hug 100 customers than serve a billion. Isn't that
Yeah, I think I said that.
you
I like
did. You did. I
yeah,
saw
that
that, a quote on I think
was
it was
that
on your website or something.
yeah, yeah,
I
I
saw
think I said something like that on the because I think I was talking about the app where
oh,
I was like, I loved the app and building the app, but I'd rather like hug 100 people than serve a million, It's just like which is hard because serving a million is a great freaking business model at like 90%, gross margin on software, you
yeah,
know?
I'd
It's
say,
a
yeah.
it's a much better business model, but
You could
it
have the
doesn't
first VW bus helicopter.
right? And I think those guys at Skinner are, they have one,
I see it, man. I see it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
getting close. It's getting
Yeah,
close. It's interesting to watch that
I
over
know.
time.
Yep.
So 5 years down the road, Peace Vans, what's coming up? What's the dream?
I mean, the dream's to keep the dream alive, to really continue to be one of the dwindling resources for this community, and to really continue to provide services and expertise and support for the community. We want to continue to be like a main pillar of the VW world in the Pacific Northwest. So, that's the primary focus. I mean, obviously we want to, we want to build a business around the ID Buzz, get younger families into camping and road trips, not in an RV, in a camper mobile. And if they need a reliable EV to do that, we want to be able to provide that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we are investing fairly heavily in EV conversions. I'm really passionate about that space. I think you talk to a lot of like Gen Z kids and or even like younger millennials, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't want a car. Cars suck." And then you show them like an old Kia or something like that, they're like, "Oh, excuse me, I would buy
Oh, you're
that."
good. You're good.
Like, I want that, but then they're like, "Oh, the motor and, like, no one can service it," and,
Yeah.
but then you're like, "Wait, it's an EV," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I'll buy that in a heartbeat," like,
Yeah.
they like it, like, they don't like today's cars. It's not like they don't like cars.
Right.
Today's cars suck, you know?
It's an
And
interesting take because what you're describing is my son,
mhm,
right? I've got a few of them, but the one that's at the driving age, you're describing him perfect. I'll be really honest, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus, but
yeah,
he's 17 and he doesn't have his driver's license yet. And it's
yeah,
not because he's an idiot. He's actually a really smart kid. Why doesn't he have it? Because he doesn't want to fucking drive.
right,
He's not inspired to drive at all. Dude,
totally.
I
Yeah,
was driving when I was 14 because I
yeah,
couldn't wait to drive
right,
slow, breaking the
exactly,
damn law, So,
right. It's like
these
not
kids, you're right.
it's like yeah, there's nothing like it's an important skill to have, and, like,
I know.
you need to get from A to B,
Yeah,
but nothing really appealing about it other than the functional nature of it these days, but you show, like, a category of these kids, like, these classic cars, and they're just like, "That's cool," and we're like, "Yeah, that's cool," so
he loves our Gia, he loves the thing.
yeah.
He goes he likes to hang out with me and drive around in them. So
So,
you're right,
trying
man.
to
You're describing it perfectly.
mhm. So anyway, so we're really interested in that, and then honestly for me, I'm 57, and some of my engineers who work on this EV stuff, they're in their early 20s, and it's really fun to hang around a bunch of young, smart people,
Sure.
It's, like, super energizing, and
Absolutely.
nothing against my aging technicians on the air-cooled and water-cooled,
Right.
but it's really fun to have these, like, 20-something super smart engineers, like, wrenching on old stuff, but also, like, writing software and printing their own circuit boards, It's like
Super cool, man.
I just like being around that energy. It's and that's one of the reasons I have my own business and Peace Fans is so I can assemble, like, who I wanna be around. Like, I only wanna work at a place I like the people.
Yeah,
The
love it.
only way I can really control that is, like, oh, I get to hire and fire the people.
I got some quick fire, pretty much
Yeah,
off the cuff style,
yeah, go for it.
all right. Favorite VW of all time?
Oh god. Probably a Ghia, like a 71, it's probably a Ghia, maybe even, yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
Go-to road trip snack?
Oh god. Cherry Coke and salt and vinegar chips.
Mmm,
Yeah,
nice. A little sweet, a little salty, actually a lot.
yeah, and with that is, I make a joke with my kids sometimes, like, that actually keeps me awake because it gives me a stomach ache. It's not the caffeine.
So it's a self-inflicted stomach.
Right, this yeah,
You figured it out.
yep,
That's funny. Air-cooled or water-cooled?
both. I can't my business is built on water cooled, like,
Right?
air cooled's way more enjoyable, no question.
Awesome. If you could road trip anywhere, no limits, where would you go?
North Africa.
Ooh, super
Yeah.
cool. I had
Yeah.
a company on a few months ago called Afro Beetle in South Africa.
Oh,
And
cool.
they're a South African company that specializes in restoring beetles, and they also have a rental service out there,
Oh,
but
wow. Oh,
they
cool.
yeah, they rent them. Yeah, pretty cool. Afro Beetle. They're
Okay.
several episodes ago. You could check them
I'll
out.
check it out. Yeah.
One tool every VW owner should have in their toolkit.
AAA card.
Touche, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes. I've got loud
I
and
mean, like
proud.
a I
I
mean,
just my fuel pump just failed, and I just
oh,
had
yeah.
AAA. I was just going downtown to grab some shirts for an event. No big deal. Just right up the road. And yep,
Yeah.
AAA. So yeah, okay, good, good, good. Any maybe breakdown stories that we didn't touch on? I didn't want to.
Yeah, I've got a hilarious one.
All
You
right,
know?
good. Let me hear
Yeah.
it.
I mean, so this is so the I've talked a lot about EVs and but this we were delivering an EV to San Francisco, like a 77 bus. And, like a really high-end clothing company is one of the vehicle they own for, they've been using for marketing, and we're in San Francisco. Now if you've been in San Francisco recently, they now have, like, driverless cars. There's about 400 on the streets.
Yeah, I seen him in Arizona actually. Yeah,
Yeah, super cool,
yeah.
and so our little electric bus stopped working, and we're stuck in traffic and this driverless car is behind us honking at us because there's a double yellow line that it couldn't cross. And at that moment, we didn't know it was driverless. So we're like out the window doing the universal go around us and it honking at us. And we kind of were on a hill, so we kind of were slipping back towards it, and it was freaking out, honking more at us.
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
and then we realized there was no one in the car. And we realized, like, oh, it hasn't been programmed for this scenario of like, if you're behind a VW bus, like, give more buffer zone, look for the hand waving you around. So I actually wrote a letter, an email to the company saying, "Hey, FYI, you need to like program your driverless vehicles for old VW buses and how to handle when they're in front of you." It was hilarious. It was so funny. It's just
Hopefully,
it had no idea what to do with us.
that's interesting. So we
Yeah.
called Uber in Arizona, in Scottsdale, when I was
Mhm.
there, and to the ride to the airport, no driver. I mean, it was so new to
So
me
weird.
still. It was like a year, maybe 18 months ago. I was filming it with my
Yeah,
phone,
it's
and I was
so
sharing.
weird.
People were like, "What? Like, how's that?" So yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Super.
my other favorite story is probably, a couple years ago, we were driving up from Baja, and I was with another couple, and their van broke down like just as they were crossing the border, and I actually pushed them with my van across the border, and the border agent was like, "What the fuck? What are you doing? Like, what's going on here?" And I was like, and I had my kid with me, and it was an older couple, so I was like, "That's her grandparents, and they're sick, and we have to get home." And like they got through and pushed them, so then there's our turn, and he's trying to get them to go, but their car, their van was broken, their bus was broken, and they weren't moving forward because they needed me to push them. And he ended up not even checking our passports. He's like, just go.
Whoa.
He's like, just get out of here. So I then had to push them another like 500 yards up and down the thing. And yeah, I don't know if you know, when you push vehicles bumper to bumper, it's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if there's any
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
pain
They
or
get
any.
ahead of you and then
Oh,
they fall back and like it was ugly. So,
yeah, I bet. I bet. I got that visual.
mhm.
Who in the VW world inspires you most?
Oh, wow. I just visited the team. This is, the water cooled Vanagons because that's central to our business. There's a team down in Los Osos in Southern California, Go Westy. And, the owner there, like, I really got to know him personally on this last trip and just, his story. He comes from like deep VW roots, like Beatles and just wrenching and how he built a really successful business, and really admire him. So he's probably not that well known in the community, but his business he's built and his dedication to keeping our core platform, the Vanagon, alive is really admirable. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. That's
And just
awesome.
how he stuck with it, like I don't think his business really started getting going till his early 50s. That's a long road, to march on, to struggle along until you hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's like the KFC invention.
Yeah, yeah, that bro, yeah, yeah, Harlem
The good
started that
old Colonel, he was like 67 or something when he.
yeah, uh-huh, yeah, yeah, fascinating.
So speaking of somebody like that, who would be a historical figure that you would road trip with, past or present?
I would love to, like, I mean, just not going back that far, I would love to party with, some of the merry pranksters from the '60s. There's Kerouac and, that crew, Ken Kesey, someone from that era. Like, I just think that was a real golden era of road tripping in America and just the dawn of all that. To participate in that, I think would be really special.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So before we wrap up, I want to give everybody an opportunity where they can find you if they want to follow Peace Vans. Shout out your socials and where to get in touch with Peace Vans.
Yeah, I mean, the best way, we spend a disproportionate amount of time, unfortunately, like, on Instagram. It's kind of where we actually, like, put effort. So that's the best way to reach us. We're the most responsive on that platform. We do try to push a lot of content on YouTube. So all of that's, Peace Fans. I actually respond to every single email I get. Harley, Harley, like the motorcycle, at peacefans.com. Love hearing from people individually, and sometimes
You responded to me.
yeah, right. Took a while. It took a
Yeah.
while.
Hey, man.
Like there was a couple weeks where I went dark, and I literally like every day I was like, I got to get back in touch with Joe. This like dragging this out, and so sometimes I get overwhelmed. I got a big team and a lot of responsibilities, and a 15-year-old, and
Oh,
my
man.
wife still thinks it's fucking crazy that I do this. But yeah, I love hearing from people. It's really kind of emotional, that like we inspire people, like I didn't set out to do that, but it's really, I relish the opportunity both as a business owner and as someone passionate about road trips and about, the VW world to sort of, it feels like I'm one of many, but that a baton has sort of been passed to. So I take that very seriously.
Awesome, man. And I can tell that you do. I can see your passion, I can
Mhm.
hear it. And you can just tell a lot of times the way people talk about their businesses, the way they manage their employees. You don't even want to call them employees. The way they manage their team.
Yeah, to
Um,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So any final words for the VW community or really anybody, in the van again or the van life or the bus life, any final words from you?
Just get outside. Get outside and touch grass. It's like so easy to get sucked into your phone and,
Mm.
the virtual world and it's designed to do that. It's insidious. It's like it's architected, it's engineered. Some of the smartest people in the world are trying to keep you addicted to that device to get your attention so they can sell that to advertisers. And you can break that cycle by going outside and touching grass.
That's the best advice I've heard in months.
Yeah. So just
Go
go do
outside,
that.
touch
You know.
grass. I love
Yeah,
it.
break the cycle, and yeah, and if your kid will listen to you, take them with you. I know it's a hassle to get mine to go, but every once in a while I get her to do it. So, yep.
Well, Harley, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate your
This has been
time.
great. This has been so much fun. I can't thank you enough for, the effort you've put into this podcast, and it's an honor to be on it, and your
Thank you.
passion too is just admirable, and I'm so glad you reached out and we finally connected the dots, and I hope your audience has found it, fun, and look
Well,
forward to continue
yeah.
to stay connected.
And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.